too many points. Okay. All right, let's go to your next game. So game number 2 by King Hunter, and this time you're playing with the white pieces. So we can keep it like this, and let's go into it. D6, and D6 is a strange move at this point. And again, if your opponent plays a move that you're maybe not as familiar with, then usually it means not the main theory move, and you can find ways to exploit that. Here G3 is not exploiting that. There are two ways to play. You can either go D4 when you'll reach actually a dragon. This is also a position possible out of the Sicilian accelerate dragon. White has this Marocci setup. So this is definitely quite comfortable for white. This is one option. And the other option, which might be even better, is to go E3. Excuse me, and then prepare D4 next move. And usually black has a position where he's already played G6 and then he can go D5 in one move. But here he could go D5, but he has just lost a tempo, and otherwise if he goes G6 he can push D5, even win a tempo. So this is just not good for black at all. So E3 I think is quite uncomfortable for black in this position, making use of the fact that D6 is not really a good move here at this point. Alright, G3. So I think maybe you followed too much your patterns here, how you develop, and didn't think too much about what your opponent was doing. So pay more attention to that, and don't necessarily always stick to your standard way of developing. Alright, bishop G2, bishop G7, castle, E5, D3, knight G7. Now you go E4, which is possible, but in general already it seems just totally fine for black. He has a nice harmonious setup with the knights on E7, C6, bishop G7, and just all looks very good. So the main move here is A3, which is probably better than E4, but even here black shouldn't have any problems. Here the main move is to go knight E1 with the idea knight C2, knight E3, but black is in time to play D5, and I think this is already more comfortable for black. Might be equal, but I would definitely prefer black already. So instead maybe you can have a look at the move E3 here, and now the main move is H6, and now to go knight D2, bishop E6 and knight D5. But yeah, I think you shouldn't get into this position in the first place. You should not get into this position in the first place. You need to do something else beforehand. Alright, E4. Well, this is just more comfortable for black already, it feels to me, because his knight is on E7, your knight is on F3, and your knight is blocking the F pawn, his knight isn't. So just looks more harmonious for your opponent. Now you play bishop G5. You could once again go for this typical plan with A3 and rook B1 followed by B4. But yeah, still, it just looks totally fine for black. So just already more comfortable, I would say, for your opponent. Alright, this plan of bishop G5 I'm still not a fan of, because you're just giving up your dark squared bishop without getting anything in return, right? Your dark squared bishop is a very nice minor piece here in this position, covering the dark squares, obviously, for example D4, and just giving it up like that, there's no need to do that. Maybe you're following the principle that in close positions knights are better than bishops, and this is a closed position, I do agree, but it's not completely closed, and there's still ways to open up the position. It's just too early to make the kind of decision to give up your bishop here. So I don't think that was a good choice. Alright, now you go rook b1, knight c6, knight d5, bishop e6, a3. So you go after this plan, this is correct. Queen d2, knight e7. But here actually you take on e7, and you could have retained your knight by going knight e3. The point is that bishop e6, which is the move black wants to play to keep his bishop, runs into d4, very unpleasant, threatening to go d5 and gaining more space. This looks wonderful. E takes d4, knight takes d4, of course, is great for white with the pressure against pawn d6 and having nice center control. So knight e3 here. Always consider all your options. If your opponent offers a trade, you don't have to take it. You can also decline by going back, or you could also let him take on d5, which is in this case possible, but also not that great. Knight e3 or knight c3 was to be preferred. Knight takes, queen takes, rook fc1, king h7. Now you go rook c2, which is okay, I think. But also what I like, let's look at position, and we see that, okay, both those pieces are not really great right now. But about the bishop you cannot really do much. The only thing you could do possibly in the future is to trade it against this bishop, but it's not that easy to accomplish. But this knight can be improved, the knight on f3. So you could go knight e1 to prepare knight c2, knight e3, and having control over d5. And if now black goes f5 like he did in the game, you actually can go f3. So it wouldn't be a good idea for black, because he gets into some trouble here with his bishop on h5 as you threaten g4. So knight e1 was an alternative, but that being said, rook c2 is also a decent move. f5, but now this is a critical moment definitely in the game. Black goes f5 and you go knight e1, and with this move you're really condemning yourself to a passive defense for the rest of the game, because black goes f4 and suddenly you always have to watch out for your king safety, and you will not have enough counterplay on the queen side. Also, your bishop just dies. After this move, your bishop is just dead. This bishop will not get into the game again. The only hope for this bishop would be now to be traded against the good bishop on g4, but there's no way to accomplish that. So this bishop is just dead. So by playing knight e1, it's just a death sentence for the bishop. So what you absolutely need to do here is to take on f5, and your bishop would be a very happy man. Okay, black can take back in three ways. If he takes with the bishop, with the rook, you can just go knight h4. So g takes f5 looks logical, but also now just h3 maybe first, bishop h5, knight h4, and look at this bishop now. Beautiful, beautiful, slicing along the long diagonal. And I think you're doing quite fine here again. This knight on h4 is also uncomfortable for black. You can pressure maybe on the queen side, and your king is a little safer. This is totally fine for white again, I would say. So knight e1 is very problematic, because after f4 you don't have counterplay and your bishop doesn't participate anymore, just as a defensive piece, but can't be activated. So it's just a positional mistake clearly here. Maybe not seeing the long-term consequence of allowing black to go f4 and expanding on the king side. Alright, so you play f3 and g4, which was more or less necessary to stop the black attack, but of course it makes your bishop even worse on g2, obviously. h3, bishop g5. Now you go queen d1. Maybe you should try and play bishop f1. Also, in order to prepare d4 at some point, that seems like a good idea to me, to at least get something going there. Because just watching how black improves his position will not give you very good defensive prospects. Bishop h4. Now b5. Yeah, maybe you should go d4 here. Takes, and of course you cannot take back now because of bishop f6, but you could go rook ac1 first. And okay, black can defend the pawn, but at least you can get your knight to d3. And okay, maybe you can defend. I mean, black's clearly better, but there's still some hope for sure. I think b5 doesn't help your position anyway. It more so weakens the dark squares here. Makes the c5 square available for the black queen, and takes away the option for you to go c5 and take with the pawn, for example, or makes it more difficult also for you to play c5. Alright, so bishop b5, bishop g3, rook a2, queen h4, queen d2, h takes g4. Now clearly you can take with the f pawn on g4 to get your knight back to f3. Black can go queen d8 and bring the queen to b6. Now king g7. This looks first pretty strong to play rook h8 and play bishop takes g4, but you are in time here by going rook c2. And if rook h8, now you can go c5, and suddenly the black pawns are becoming weak. Excuse me. Also, if queen c5, here after rook c2, queen c5, you can go d4, and that's a nice way to challenge the current situation by changing the pawn structure. So f takes g4 was an alternative which should have been played actually, to get his knight back on to f3 and then create some counterplay. Okay, h takes g4, king g7, king f1, queen d8, and now you play queen a5, which I understand you don't want the queen to come to b6, but as it turns out you actually can just take on a7, and it looks like you kind of have a fortress here, that black, he can bring his rook to h2, but what now? He doesn't have any pawn breaks. The only pawn break he would have is to go d5, but of course you can always take this pawn. You control the a file, and I don't think there's a way to for black to make progress. Of course he can try something, I don't know, maybe bring the king to h4, something like that, but I mean, then you can also bring the rook to a8, so I think this holds. So I'm aware it looks scary, but if it works, it works, and it seems to work here. So this was a good alternative to queen a5, actually a better alternative to queen a5. Okay, b6, queen b4, rook f7, rook a6, bam, 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 bam. Okay, knight c2 is a mistake now. You should maybe just come back with the rook to a2. Just a waiting move, and then if he goes king f6 or something like that, then you can go knight c2. Why is knight c2 a problem? Well, tactical reasons. After knight c2, he can take on g4, which he didn't, but he can just take on g4, f takes, and f3, and he wins back the piece. For example, takes, king g2, rook takes d3, and has much better position obviously. And if you go bishop h3 here to save the piece, then it gets even worse, because black just plays queen d8, plays queen h4, and all your pieces are on the queen side way too far away to defend, and black just wins on the spot. Alright, so this is why knight c2 was a mistake. And of course in these positions you always need to look out for those taking moves, capture moves, like bishop takes g4. Rook d7, king e2. Okay, what we'll see here now and for the next couple of moves is that you are oblivious to this idea of black going d5. But fortunately for you, your opponent was also oblivious to it. because otherwise you would have been in big trouble. So now in the next 4 moves or so, you're always missing this idea that black can go d5, but so does your opponent. So instead of going king e2, you should go rook a2 to defend the knight on c2. Because this is the problem here and hereafter, that always after d5 you cannot take with the c pawn because the knight is hanging with check, and after e takes d5, bishop takes d5, black has clearly improved his position because now he has a new target with the pawn on d3 and also the pawn on f3 potentially. And maybe at some point you might even play the next break, who knows. Alright, so here again d5. So in all these cases you should do something like defend the knight, right? King d2 for example. And once again king d2. Now black could go d5, but here you could go queen c3 and maybe put some pressure on this pawn immediately, threaten something like rook takes a7 because the black king suddenly might be in danger too. So that would give you some counterplay. Queen b4, once again d5 is possible. Rook f7, rook ha1, rook a8, and now you play a move that I don't understand at all. Well, maybe I understand a little bit, but it's very strange to me that you suddenly just give up the h file for your opponent, whereas before you always, well, put a rook there. Now you go knight a3. I'm not sure, maybe your plan was to go knight b1, knight c3. I mean, anything else, I don't know what else could be. But now your opponent just plays rook h7, the game is just over. He comes in on h2 and the pressure becomes too much. So you need to go rook h1 here again, clearly. And, well, who knows, since your opponent missed this d5 idea before the whole time, might miss it here as well, and then you could defend. If you played king d2 at some point, you might actually hold this position together. Okay. So knight a3, but then there's nothing you can do. Just coming in, and of course sacrifice work as well now. It's just too easy for black. Okay. So alright, let's see. I would say you got into a worse position because of your opening, because of the general setup you chose with e4 then, with your knight on f3 that didn't really fit that well, then also giving up your dark squared bishop. But already very early I would say you need to find ways to put more pressure on your opponent. If your opponent plays a move like 3d6, you want to exploit that, you want to punish him for that, okay? So this got you into a worse position. What got you into trouble then was to let your bishop get buried on g2 by allowing him to go f4. That was definitely a critical moment, and just a position must mistake by you to not take on f5, not to open up your bishop again. And this is how you got into the worst position, but the way you lost was actually, or the way you gave your opponent several winning chances. First with bishop takes g4, and then with d5, clearly tactics. Clearly, I mean this move d5, just like in the other game we saw where you could have played e5, once again this pawn break, it seems like you don't really keep an eye on it. You don't consider it either for yourself or for your opponent, and this is how you miss it, okay? And then here in the end, I don't know what happened, but I guess maybe you paid too much attention to your own plans with knight a3, knight b1. I'm not sure this knight a3 move what it was all about, but just giving away the h file turned out to be just deadly for you, really, here. So maybe you didn't pay enough attention to your opponent's threats at that point. Maybe you were in time trouble, I don't know. But I don't know, it's just odd to me that you just give away the H file again. Because here really not much is happening, right? You can just play a move like King D2, something like that, and white, the black has to show how he's going to break through. It's not easy, if at all possible, right? You have good defensive chances, definitely. Alright, but those were great games, especially the second one to send in and analyze, because there was just a lot, right? Especially in this game, there were a lot of different kind of mistakes that you made, and I hope that this analysis proves useful to you to know what you can change in your game to improve, right? So to summarize again, check this opening definitely. But the opening, I mean, it is important because it influenced the rest of the game, but in the end, usually it comes down to more so position understanding, like we saw here, where you allowed the opponent to gain more space and play f4, and then to see the tactical shots like bishop takes g4, d5, and to see your opponent's threats, like taking over the h file and intruding on the second rank with rook h2, and then the pressure becomes too much. I mean, this is really what it comes down to. So I would definitely recommend you to spend more time on tactics and always ask yourself, what does my opponent want to do next? What are his threats? And check for those candidate moves. All right, King Hunter, I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions, just let me know. I'm going to check chat really quick if there are any questions. Yes, there are questions. Ah, yeah, exactly. It's a question by Ian. And he's saying that there was some time shortage at the end. Okay, that helps explain what happened. And exactly, the e3, d4 plan should be played in the opening when we go back to this moment right here. I mean, d4 is also comfortable for white, clearly, but I think e3 followed by d4 is even better, because you're ready to push right to d5, gain a tempo and gain more space, and that puts, I think, the most pressure on black right away.